The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition or give any medical or legal advice.
You are all...
Everybody's voting for the friendly voice of radio, the people's choice. Music, weather, sports, and news, it's radio. The people choose. Everybody swinging to the swinging voice of radio, the people's choice. Big fry, small fry, dawn to dawn, it's radio that turns them on.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, that is me. Boy, that thunder just makes me really concerned about the weather. Virginia Beach, my heart goes out. There's been 11 people murdered today, and they're saying 6 to 8 others wounded. Oh, man, what is going on? It's just like every week. Anyway, tonight, we got a great show for at least the next hour and a half with Tobias Wayland. We're going to be talking about the cryptics, like Mothman, Bigfoot, whatever we start talking about. Now, Tobias will be on right after this.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Oh, wow, and we're back that fast. Hey, Tobias, are you there? Hopefully he's there. I told him to mute his phone for a while. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I am absolutely here. That is that's my bad.
Oh, that's okay. I thought maybe we lost you while you were going to go get a nice cup of Java or something.
I've already got some cold brew coffee for me to sip on. I am completely present, ready to go.
My wife and my daughter picked me up a water cooler, which also has hot and cold water on it. It's in the studio, and because I'm trying to lose weight, which I'm doing a good job, and I'm trying to break the habit of soda. But now I got this 5-gallon jug of water on this thing. I got all these tea bags, and I don't know, I'm probably drinking a half a gallon of tea a day. And you know what? I love it.
Yeah, hey, honestly, tea's supposed to have all kinds of other positive qualities. My wife loves tea, and so she gets me to drink it. And if I've got a cold or something, especially, she gives me the right kind of tea, kicks it every time. So, There's something to it.
Yeah, I love it anyway. Now, why don't you tell the listeners, the new listeners that haven't heard you on the show before, a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Oh, sure, no problem. So, you introduced me, my name is Tobias Wayland, and I am the head writer and editor for the Singular Fortean Society. And so you can find the Singular Fortean Society probably easiest at our website, which is at singularfortean.com. Otherwise, we're represented, pretty strongly on social media. And a little bit about what we do is we investigate the paranormal, and in addition to that, we also try to cover it journalistically. So, we'll cover any paranormal related news stories. When we publish our own findings, we try to remain as sort of objective as possible, in that journalistic style, trying to report facts. And so the reader can sort of make up their own mind about stuff like that. And then on top of that, we try to foster a more positive paranormal community. That's also something that's very important to us. So we try to do a lot of paranormal outreach, supporting other members of the paranormal community, and that sort of fold into it how we interact with witnesses and people who contact us and everything else. We just sort of want to erode the societal stigma that surrounds, much of this stuff and to sort of provide a positive community for people to take part in.
Wow. Now, how long have you been doing this, Tobias?
Well, I personally, as an investigator, I've been investigating for about 11 years. I started as a MUFON field investigator about 11 years ago, and I did that for several years, and I left that organization to just sort of pursue my own interests and bummed around as an independent investigator for a while, and then I met my wife, Emily, and, she also shared my interest in this stuff, and her background is as a graphic designer and a photographer. So sort of with my background and education as a writer and investigator, we realized that we had the combined skill set to create our own organization, and be able to market it well and sort of bring it to people's attention and everything. And so that's what we did. And that would have been pretty early 2016. We sort of soft launched in April of 2016. And then really by the end of that year, I think we sort of had more direction, because we spent most of 2016 kind of figuring out who we were as an organization. And so we actually really completely rebranded in January of 2017. So it's difficult for me to sort of say, this is when the Singular Fortean Society started, because, technically it started in April of 2016, but if you compared that Singular Fortean Society to the one in January 2017 on, they're pretty different. So, but, I guess the short answer would be a couple of years.
Interesting. Do you eat, sleep cryptids?
Yeah, cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, psychic phenomena, it's some of everything. So just in case people don't know, the word Fortean actually comes from the name Charles Fort. And so Charles Fort was an early 20th century collector of weird news stories. And he didn't discriminate at all when it came to the collection of what he referred to at the time as damned data. And so what he meant by that was these were the stories, this was the data that both mainstream science and religion at that time were completely ignoring because it was inconvenient to their narrative. It just didn't fit into their separate paradigms. And so Charles Fort collected these stories, and, he would write these wildly entertaining books where, he would collect all of these, news clippings that he had collected, and he would put them together, and he would write about them, sort of speculate, and so sort of in that tradition, we're a bit more investigative, certainly, than he was, but in that tradition of not excluding anything, we investigate it all. So, anything weird, we want to know about it. And one of his ideas, interestingly, and this is something that I've really taken, to heart, is he said, one measures a circle beginning anywhere. And what that means is by studying any part of the paranormal, be that ghosts and hauntings or UFOs or Bigfoot or Mothman, any of it, by studying one part of it, you can learn something about all of it. And that's definitely how we approach things as an investigative body.
Well, what type of reports are you getting in right now? Is Mothman still as popular as it was a couple months ago? Or is it some other type of cryptid? This time of year, we're going into summer. Do you get other reports of other strange, monsters, cryptids, that type of thing?
We definitely do. As far as Mothman is concerned, so, we've been investigating reports of a Mothman-like entity around Lake Michigan since spring of 2017. And that first, sort of summer and spring of 2017, most of the sightings were coming out of Chicago, and they were coming pretty hot and heavy, and it's tapered off since then. But there's been this really interesting phenomenon, actually, where, one, we now get reports of a similar entity, but spread out throughout the entire, region surrounding Lake Michigan. So, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, all over the place. We get these reports now, but also, in addition to that, we get a lot of historical reports of whatever this thing is. And so lately what I've found, and I don't necessarily know the reason behind this, but we've been getting more of the historical accounts, and those are honestly just as interesting to me. And there's a reason for that specifically, and it's because when a lot of people talk about what they call the sort of original Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant from 66 to 67, the popular narrative there is that those sightings culminated and ultimately ended with the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in December of 1967. But my oldest historical report actually came from a guy named Floyd Hancock, and his encounter, which his entire family experienced, happened less than 2 years from the collapse of the Silver Bridge and the supposed end of Mothman in that area. And so his encounter was in Rolling Prairie, Indiana, which is, sort of just on the southeastern border of Lake Michigan. And it's around 400 miles from Point Pleasant. So, pretty far, but not that far. And it was less than 2 years apart. And so, if I'm looking at our timeline that we've got up on our website here, I can go back and look at some of these historical sightings that we're getting, and I can look at these dates, and we've got Floyd Hancock's encounter. That was October 27th, 1969. The next one we have recorded after that was mid-June 1976, and then again in 81, again in 87, 1997, 1999, summer of 2000, and just on and on, all the way up until 2017, where everything just sort of exploded one spring. So it's really helped to provide some context, because a lot of people think that these Lake Michigan Mothman sightings started again in April 2017. But, the longer that I do this, the more I've come to believe that they never ended. I don't think that the Silver Bridge was the end of anything. Maybe it was the end of it in Point Pleasant, at least temporarily. But it definitely wasn't the end of the phenomenon, because we're seeing the exact same thing. And as more people learn about it, we get more historical reports that show it just never really went away. One of the things that I hear a lot from witnesses over and over, this is very consistent, especially with these older reports that we get, is that, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people to believe, I'm sure, because, we all sort of live in our bubble and assume people know everything that we know. But most normal people have never heard of the Mothman. They haven't heard of they haven't heard of John Keel.